Yo, what's up? Back here with another video. I decided, since I'm on a huge cut right now, I'm trying to lose some weight, and I'm starving right now. It sucks having to not eat much, but I decided I'm gonna make a video, and we're gonna discuss about something that's honestly been a problem for pretty much forever, but it's only gotten worse, and it is undeserved title shots. 2024 is known for many things. But one of the things that it's known for is how many people who didn't deserve title shots got title shots. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. We have to start with UFC 311. And it hurts me to say it because, I like both fighters and I don't blame them at all. But the first undeserved title shot that I have to give will have to be Renato Moicano against Islam Makhachev. Now, I don't blame any of these fighters. I don't blame even anybody, actually. I don't blame Arman Tsarukyan for pulling out. I don't blame the UFC for even putting this fight. Arman Tsarukyan got injured, and that's not in his control. You get injured. You don't want to go fight when you're injured, especially for a title fight, right? And I don't blame Arman Tsarukyan at all for pulling out of this fight with a back injury, which for sure can affect the fight, like how it did against Bilal Muhammad and Leon Edwards, right? I don't blame Arman Tsarukyan for pulling out. I don't blame Islam for taking this fight, and I don't blame Moicano for even getting this title shot. The only thing I have to say about this is that this matchup was the worst matchup. If there was such a huge mismatch, this would be one of these huge mismatches. Because, man, it's like feeding a puppy to a bunch of sharks. And when I mean sharks, I mean Islam Makhachev. Moicano, he's a funny dude, and he's really good. He's a really good fighter. He has impressive wins over BSD and Jalen Turner. But for him to go jump and fight Islam Makhachev, it's like, what was that? And also, I don't even blame them. There was no other candidate that could have cut to 155 in just a day. And Renato Moicano thankfully weighed in 155. So they're able to make that fight. I know it was last minute, but I have to mention that just because it was such a crazy matchup between it's hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby type of matchup, and it definitely proved to be because Moicano got submitted in like a couple minutes, and it was even bizarre because Moicano fucking dropped Islam, which was just making me think like, what the fuck is happening? But Islam, he just wrestled Moicano, which I already said was gonna be Moicano's biggest weakness, and he was able to get that choke in very early. I didn't expect him to choke him that early. I was expecting round 2 when Moicano was starting to get a bit tired from the wrestling, but he let his neck open, and that was what happened. Anyways, that's another bad matchup. But I want to give an honorable mention from UFC 311, and this is going to upset a lot of people. Umar did not deserve that title shot. And it was very apparent he didn't deserve that title shot. If you look at his fight history, this man only had one ranked win against Sandhagen, who was coming off an injury, who hasn't fought in a year. And frankly, Umar already had the advantage of already knowing how to wrestle. And even then, that fight was still pretty close. So I would say, even before, that Nurmagomedov did not deserve this title shot. The only reason why he even got it was because of his name and the fact that, frankly, I think the UFC did not like Merab being champion and we wanted Umar to be champion. But Merab, he's just a lot better than Umar, and he was able to get that win, and he got it pretty dominantly, especially in the later rounds. And honestly, if I were to score it would have been 48-47, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 49-46, because round 1 was pretty close. And I'm not here to shit on Umar. I think Umar is a very good fighter, but You can't tell me that Umar deserved that title shot over Peter Yan. Or even Sean O'Malley. I think Sean O'Malley deserved that rematch more than Umar because at least Sean O'Malley was the champion. Umar was just a contender with one ranked win. And he gets a title shot. I know, name and fight value and entertainment and bringing fans is important. But, you got to stick to merit, And I think Peter Yan was that number one contender, but they gave it to Umar. And I'm glad that Merab defeated Umar because I did not want to see Umar become champion off one ranked win. I want to see Umar at least fight other contenders. Like, for example, the winner of Song Yadong and Henry Cejudo, or maybe a Figueiredo, or maybe Ralph Lauren, or any guy in the top 10. Because I'm really tired of seeing that shit where a fighter gets one ranked win and they get a title shot. And I'm going to just say it, this is just a rant. I'm not saying this as an instructional actual video, something with actual takes. I'm ranting. So if you disagree with my opinion, I don't know what to do about it. It's just my opinion, You could tell me otherwise. But it just makes no sense why Umar got that title shot. But it's honorable mention. I don't think it was so bad as the Moicano matchup because Umar did really well in that fight. But yeah, one ranked win, getting a title shot, and especially forcing Merab to take it on short notice, it's just really sketchy shit. And honestly, it was bad. But next, we're going to talk about something. There's obviously I'm going to talk about 2024 title shots just because they were honestly the most recent. And I'll go over more. But obviously, there was the Kaya Sakura versus Pantoja title shot, and my opinion, I don't think that was that bad, to be honest, because can you even blame the UFC? Pantoja cleared the division. There were no other contenders, apart from rematches, and no one wants to see Moreno and Pantoja fight for the fourth time. No one wants to see Royval get destroyed for the third time. And frankly, Kai Kara France didn't have that much to really warrant a title shot. All the new contenders were getting destroyed by the top 5, like Amir Albazi and Tatsuro Taira. And honestly, flyweight's not that stacked, And it sucks. But Kaya Sakura's title shot was very much... It was meant to be. It was meant to be. They wanted to bring in someone new, bring in an exciting matchup. They got in Kaya Sakura. He was making such a scene in the Japanese regional area, and frankly, Pantoja doing him a fees, it was expected, honestly. Kaya Sakura wasn't tested against UFC caliber fighters, especially against a UFC champion. But, I don't think it was that bad. And honestly, Kaya Sakura definitely has potential to be a top contender in the UFC. But obviously it was his first fight, so the nerves got to him. Next, we need to talk about something, and this will anger a lot of fans, especially Jon Jones fans. You know how Stipe got that title shot against Jon Jones? That today, and it's always been since they announced that fight in 2023, has been one of the dumbest matchups to make today. Just because, before Tom Aspinall became interim champion, honestly, it was still stupid. Just because Stipe hasn't won in years, and his last loss was a knockout. So Jon Jones not fighting Sergey Pavlovich or any other contender, or even Tom Aspinall went before he was interim champion. Or at least Sergey Pavlovich was the number one contender back then, I think. So him not fighting Pavlovich and him fighting Stipe was already stupid. But then Tom Aspinall switches things up and becomes interim champion. And then the UFC still make that matchup. They make Tom Aspinall defend the title. An interim title, which is so stupid in itself. And then, to spite his face, to spite him even more, they make Stipe, a number 8 guy who hasn't won in 4 years, fight Jon Jones. And they do this whole charade. Oh, Jon Jones is champion. Oh, Jon Jones is the best in the world. Bro, who has he fought? The last legit contender he fought, he got whooped, and he had to rob him through the judge's decision. So, you gotta look at me here and say that John Jones is very much cherry picking his opponents. Cyril Gane has no wrestling, and frankly, he's fucking trash. And the most overrated contender ever. And Stipe Miocic, I mean, that was just a farce in itself. That shit was just stupid. It was stupid. But apart from that rant, I mean, I just had to say that was a really stupid title shot. Next, let's go with Alex Pereira versus Cleo Roundtree. You know, now we're seeing Cleo Roundtree, and, you know, he's definitely a top contender. But you can't lie. Khalil Roundtree being number 8 and getting a title shot against Pereira when there was literally a number 1 contender, Ankalaev, was just kind of stupid. And I'm not saying that it was Pereira's fault, just because the UFC probably made him fight Roundtree, just because Ankalaev was already booked for a fight. But even then, it was a stupid matchup, and the fact that Roundtree did really good just justified the fact that maybe Roundtree should have been ranked higher. But in my opinion, you know, for him to have his last win against Anthony Smith and then get suspended for PEDs, which wasn't his fault, it was on accident, but to still get suspended and then get a title shot after that, and then for him to do actually really good in the first 2 rounds, I mean, it was definitely surprising, but it was an unwarranted title shot for sure. But next, we need to go on to something very, very controversial. Israel Adesanya against Dricus du Plessis. To this day, and even before, I still thought that this was the most undeserved matchup that you could have. I was parading for that Sean Strickland rematch. It should have happened. And for some reason, Adesanya decided to get that title shot before Sean Strickland. They had a close fight, Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis. They had a very close fight. That warrants an immediate rematch, considering Strickland was a champion, and he whooped Adesanya. But Adesanya gets that title shot? It just makes no sense, and frankly, it's just very safe to assume that Adesanya coming off almost a 1 year layoff just to get a title shot, and then he got submitted. It's just like, what was the point of the fight? I know it was the big Africa versus Africa matchup, but fucking Izzy's Chinese, bro. I'm just kidding. But in my opinion, that was an undeserved title shot. And it wasn't even like, oh, we had to fight. There were many other contenders. There were many other contenders that could have fought for that title. Sean Strickland was that number 1 contender. He already defeated Costa, and he could have got that title shot. But for some reason, they gave it to Israel Adesanya, and it's just stupid. It's really stupid. Anyways, let's go next back to flyweight. I mean, Pantoja, I don't blame him. That man already cleared the division when he beat Royval. But Steve Erceg, Pantoja. Erceg is a number 10 guy coming off pretty much a couple ranked wins. And his last win was freaking... What was his last win? It was Matt Schnell. Yeah, Matt Schnell was his last win, who pretty much gets chinned everywhere. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that this was a close fight was pretty surprising. I don't think Steve Erceg won, but I thought it was Pantoja at 3-2, which was still a close fight. And, you know, Erceg could have definitely won that, but for him to be number 10 and get that title shot, it did not make sense. And anyways, Kai Kara France sparked him. So, I don't know. That it was just a very big not really mismatch, but it was just one of those things where they didn't deserve a title shot. Now, I guess another one would be, honestly, I'm going to say this, and this might be it's a unique take. It's a unique take, but I kind of hold this. Ilya Topuria skipping the top 5 and getting the title shot against Volkanovski. Now, I'm not saying Topuria wasn't a talented fighter and he wasn't a legit contender. He 50-43 Josh Emmett, who was top 5 at that time, so it makes sense. But why didn't he fight someone like Max Holloway or Yair or Brian Ortega? Especially Max Holloway. I'm surprised they made him skip that line. But I get it. Although, in my opinion, it was slightly an undeserved title shot just because he was number 5 and we moved him to number 3 anyways, which is weird. But he beat Josh Emmett, who honestly lost his interim title shot. So it's like you gotta put him against a legitimate contender. At least put him against Zaire or Max, But like in hindsight, I wouldn't have known that Max Holloway would have lost to Ilia Topuria. And I'm not saying Ilia Topuria couldn't have won that title, but he needed one more fight to solidify that spot. And for him to beat a number 5 guy, but then get moved up 2 spots in the ranking and then get a title shot, and then for them to rush Volkanovski into getting that title shot, it's just really sketchy shit in my opinion. So I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying this to shit on Ilia Topuria. He's one of my favorite fighters, but it was slightly an undeserved matchup, and I just think he needed one more win. But in hindsight, he is a very dominant champion, and he proved everyone wrong, and he beat the number 1 and number 2 guy. So I think he'll be a long reigning champion. Oh yeah, wait, I am forgetting one thing. Chito Vera versus Sean O'Malley. That was a stupid matchup. I'm sorry. It was now there were 2 people who deserved that title shot. Merab and Corey Sandhagen. I think Merab was the number 1 contender and Corey was the number 2. I honestly was leaning towards Merab getting that title shot. Merab should have got that first title shot, but Sean O'Malley decided to fight Chito, and the UFC were fine with it just because it created that revenge story and it generated a lot of buzz. And it was also a very easy title shot for Sean O'Malley. I mean, we saw it already. Honestly, that title shot proved that Chito win over Sean O'Malley was a fluke. And Sean O'Malley dominated Chito Vera. And it's weird because Chito Vera lost to Corey Sandhagen. But he gets a title shot over Corey. And then Merab is the backup fighter. But Merab should have got that title shot. And looking back now, Merab would have just destroyed Sean O'Malley at 299. So obviously it was very inevitable at 306 that Merab destroyed Sean O'Malley. So yeah, it was just weird. It just gave him a free title defense, and yeah, I don't know. Like it just puts a lot of questions on Sean O'Malley's title reign. His win over Aljamain Sterling was impressive, but even then it had its complications. So I just had to say that. And I mean, there's a lot of title shots, man. There's a lot of things, man. A lot of things. Like I'm trying to remember. I guess, there is one title shot. And this is very debatable, but honestly, I think it makes sense. Dustin Poirier getting that title shot for against Islam. Now, this is the same thing with the Moicano fight. Dustin Poirier only got that title shot because every other contender couldn't fight for that title. Arman, who recently won against Charles Oliveira, wouldn't fight at 302. Which makes sense. Quick turnaround. He doesn't want to do that against someone like Islam. Charles Oliveira just lost. Justin Gaethje got knocked out. And honestly, that sold the title for pretty much those 3 contenders. The only other guy in that top 5 who was worthy of a title, who could fight at 302 and was a top 5 guy was Dustin Poirier. He recently defended his ranking against Benoit Saint-Denis with an impressive knockout. It showed that he was still in the game. He was still one of the top guys. So, and in hindsight, Dustin Poirier put up a great fight against Islam. Defended most of the takedowns. And, for 5 rounds, and he was even beating Islam for 2 rounds. Honestly, in the 5th round, it was going Dustin's way. And he could have definitely, if he lasted those 5 rounds and kept striking on the feet and defending the takedowns, he for sure could have got that decision victory. But he lost by submission, and honestly, it was a good fight, and I'm just saying that it wasn't really a title shot he deserved, but it was a title shot opportunity that he got, and he took it, and I don't blame him for that. Okay, and oh yeah, not one last thing, but Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. Colby Covington's last win before that was Jorge Masvidal, and he already lost the title to Kamaru Usman 2 times. And I mean, if you look at the fight history, yeah, he gets a win over Masvidal in 2022, and then more than a year later, he gets a title shot against Leon Edwards, which is so fucking funny because, okay, I'm not a Bilal Muhammad fan, but Bilal Muhammad was getting fucked by the UFC because I know it hurt him when he was the number 2 guy and beat Gilbert Burns for a title eliminator, and then they gave Colby that title shot over Bilal Muhammad. In looking back, in hindsight, Bilal Muhammad, he deserved that title shot, and he definitely proved why he could be champion material. And it just makes no sense. Leon Edwards destroyed Colby, 50-40 fight him. Colby just had no reason to get that title shot. And honestly, just sapped hopes of Colby ever becoming champion again, because it's clear that he's aging. He's not as good as he used to be, And also kind of it doesn't make sense, there was Bilal Muhammad, there was Shavkat Rakhmonov, who recently won against Wonder Boy. So it's like there were 2 contenders for the title, and Colby gets the title shot when his last win was Masvidal a year earlier. Just makes no sense. But yeah, it's just crazy, man. It's crazy. And yeah, I mean that's just from last year and maybe a year before that. I mean, there have been a lot of title mismatches. I mean, what's one thing I could say? My memory isn't good right now for some reason. I think it's because I'm starving. I'm not eating as much. My brain doesn't fucking work. Hate being on a cut. Trying to remember. I had so many options. It's crazy. A lot of undeserved title shots, man. And I don't know. Oh yeah, another one. I was just thinking about this, and it reminded me. I was thinking about UFC 311, and it reminded me of one fighter that definitely does not deserve a title shot, and it was Jamal Hill. Now, Jamal Hill was number 7, I think, at the time, and he went against Glover, which was, honestly, it was a good fight, don't get me wrong, and honestly, I don't blame them for making that fight, especially after Jan and Ankalaev tied for a title fight, which was kind of stupid. But, I mean, it was a crazy fight, and looking back, it's like, Jamal Hill definitely had a very easy fight going with that, and I mean, Glover was pretty much aging, and I mean, for sure, I just don't think that it was like a deserved title shot. I mean, oh man, this video can go on for hours, and I don't know, like it would, but I'm just way too fucking tired. But speaking of Kamaru Usman, there is one thing I like to say. Like, Kamaru Usman, good fighter, good title reign, but let's be for real. Colby and Jorge did not deserve those rematches. They did not. It's just weird because like 80% of Usman's title reign are matches with Masvidal and Colby, and it's just weird. It's just fucking weird, But I get it, but also I don't. And I mean, Colby the first time and Masvidal the first time definitely deserved those title shots just because they had a lot of hype, so I get it. But in my opinion, I just think that they did not deserve those rematches for sure. I mean, there could have been more contenders. Oh yeah, another one, Korean Zombie and Volkanovski. Huge mismatch. I don't know how that shit was even made. And It showed. And also, Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje. Now, hear me out on this. Justin Gaethje had one win over Michael Chandler, who was already on a losing record. And yeah, that was the only win he had. So for him to get that title shot, it just made no sense. And he was also number one contender, so he bumped up his ranking, which was weird. Yeah, but I don't know what else to say, man. I'm thinking there's definitely a lot of options, but honestly, I'm not thinking about them right now. So yeah, but that'll be the end of this video. Anyways, see ya.